Hi everybody and good morning. Happy Tuesday, September 14th. We're here for my human sexuality classes. Hopefully everybody is doing well. I see lots of you putting your names in the chat, which is fantastic. Can you all let me know if you can hear me and see me okay before we get going on our stuff for this week? Someone let me know if everything's coming through all right on your end. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Awesome. Okay, good. Lots of yeses, so that's good. Can you hear my dog clickety-clacketing behind me as she walks slower than slow? My poor older dog. She's 13, almost 14, and is a very, very slow little sweet soul. But anyway, good morning. I'm glad to have you all here with me today. I hope you had a nice weekend. Lots of good football games, some bad football games. My Brady and the Bucks won, so I was grateful for that. Last minute victory. But anyway, right? Yeah, she's definitely an old puppy dog. But again, I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Our plan for today, we'll look a little bit at last week, just a little bit of feedback on the discussion from last week. And then I want to take a good chunk of time today to talk about exam number 1, some study tips and the format and what to expect and so on. We do have that first exam this week. So I'll spend some good time today going over all of that. Of course, I will give you the extra credit question and then see if you have any questions at all for me as well. So let's go ahead and go over to Canvas together and take a look at all of that stuff. As I mentioned, we are in week number 5. Hard to believe it, but we're like halfway through September and week number 5. I am very much planning to decorate my yard with Halloween stuff this weekend. It is time to put the Halloween stuff outside. I'm ready to go. But let's look really quickly at last week before we move forward. Last week we were looking at female reproductive anatomy. And so you were watching the video related to that, the lecture and the slides and everything. So for the discussion last week, for the most part, really nicely done. A lot of you came up with quite a few slang terms. Some of you had pretty impressive lists. And others of you just listed a handful of them. But lots of great slang terms for female reproductive anatomy. The one that I really saw a lot of you struggle on was the bulk of the discussion, which was question number 2. What I was looking for you to do was to talk about the 4 different phases of the menstrual cycle and really highlight the hormonal influences and the events that are occurring in each one. I ended up writing on quite a few of yours that I was looking for a little bit more. So a lot of you didn't give me enough. So what I was looking for was you to talk about, what are the hormones being released? What are the chain of events that are occurring? What are the days that this happened in? To really show off your knowledge and understanding. So a lot of people got like 10 or 11 points out of 13 on this discussion. A few of you still not responding to a classmate, so don't forget to do that peer response. It is worth 2 points, so you want to make sure that you're getting those as we are moving through this semester. But just know that, a lot of people kind of, I wanted a little bit more, but for the most part, nicely done. Definitely make sure that you understand what's going on in each of those 4 phases. That's something you will definitely see on the exam this week as well. So overall, not too bad, but a little bit more. When in doubt, it's better to give me more and really show off that you are understanding and can apply and use that information. Otherwise, we this week are again moving on to week number 5. And it's a typical week in terms of having the lecture video and discussion, but then we add our first exam this week. So I want to talk about all of those elements and then definitely spend time on the test. But make sure that you're reading chapter 6 in the textbook and then watch the lecture video that I made for you on chapter 6. And this week we're looking at male reproductive anatomy. So last week was women, this week we're on to men. So make sure that you watch the lecture video, that you are either taking notes or know that you can watch it again if you need to watch it an additional time. But make sure that you do read the chapter and then watch the lecture video. Discussion number 5 this week having to do with male reproductive anatomy. So now you get the chance to come up with all of the slang terms that you can for male anatomy. And I'm expecting a good sized list here. And then you're reflecting on these two other questions as well. If you had a baby boy in the future, would you have him circumcised? Or if you did already have a baby boy, did you have them circumcised? Why or why not? Be sure to reference at least one specific advantage and one specific disadvantage of circumcising a little boy to support your decision. So I'm looking not only for your personal opinion, but also to support that with an advantage and disadvantage that I talked about in the lecture video, and they definitely talk about in the textbook as well. And then the last part that you'll do is you're going to complete this life of a sperm cell activity. So the following sentences about sperm-related events are all out of order. In your response, what I want you to do is rewrite the events to match the sequence that occurs during the production and transportation of sperm. You don't need to write the sentences out, you can just write the letters, but I am looking to see that you can rearrange these into the proper order, and this might be a kind of a helpful activity to review that sperm order that we talked about in the lecture and in the textbook. So a little bit of slang reflecting on circumcision, advantages and disadvantages, or pros and cons, and then looking at sperm related events, the life of a sperm cell, and putting that into the proper order. And again, make sure when you're ready to respond that you hit reply, and not only reply to my questions, but also reply to a classmate to get those 2 points of credit. So that is kind of the usual stuff that you have, the reading in the book, and then the discussion and the lecture video. But we do have our first exam this week, so I want to take some time to really highlight what I'm looking for and some tips for how to prepare. So let's look first at some of the general instructions, and then we can look at the content together. When you are ready to take the exam, what you'll do is you'll click right here where it says exam number 1. And don't hit take the quiz until you're ready. Okay, so we're just talking about the instructions for now, which you can view on here. And then when you're organized and ready to go, you'll hit take the quiz, and it's going to start your clock. So make sure that everything is all set before you begin. You'll notice up here it is worth 100 points, 73 questions. It is due by this Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. and you have 75 minutes to take the test. So as soon as you hit take the quiz, you have 75 minutes to begin and to complete it. You cannot pause the test. You can't take it more than once, so you just get one attempt. So really make sure that you have a quiet place, that you have good internet, that you have studied and prepared, and that you have 75 minutes to dedicate before you begin. So make sure you're thinking about all that stuff before you start, because once you begin, you're in it. You can't reset it, you can't pause it, and you do only get that one attempt. Now, if you have an access memo that gives you extra time, make sure that you do get that to me as soon as possible so I can make sure to set you up with your accommodations. But the vast majority of you will have 75 minutes, and that is definitely enough time as long as you have studied and prepared. If you haven't reviewed and prepared for the test and you're trying to look up all of the answers, you are going to be very tight on time. And I will let you know that is very intentional. I want you to study and prepare, but it's more than enough time. On average, most students finish the exam in about 60 to 62 minutes. So I've given this test many times, or some version of this test many times, and it usually takes about 60 minutes or so on average for most people to finish. Now, the exam is mainly multiple choice, matching, and true-false. So multiple choice questions are the bulk of the questions on the test. There are some matching, especially with the anatomy, which I'll talk about more when we get to the study guide in a minute. And then there are some short answer questions at the end, which will be based on things from the lectures and the readings as well. Now, none of them will ever be essays. It's typically like listing things like what are the 4 components of sexual intelligence, listing stuff or comparing, never essays. But when you are done with the exam, you will get a score instantly that will tell you how you did on everything but the short answer questions. The short answer questions I do have to go back and grade later, so everything else you'll get a score on instantly. Are the questions in the exam separated by each week, or are they all mixed in? So great question. They go by topic. So all the questions on chapter 1, and then it'll go to all the questions on chapter 2, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6. So they do follow like a logical progression, and they're clumped together. And then they start back over again when you get to the true-false questions at the end of the test. So it does kind of follow a logical progression, which I think is nice, rather than being all randomly mixed in, which can be a little haphazard when you take an exam. So other things about the test: you can use your notes, your book, your internet. You can use anything at your disposal. But as I mentioned earlier, no problem, you're welcome. As I mentioned earlier, if you're trying to look up each term and each answer, you will definitely run out of time. So the exam is very straightforward. It's very clear. If you have studied and prepared, you will do wonderfully. But if you haven't studied and prepared, and you're trying to understand the question, understand the term, and then answer it, you're not going to have enough time. So I really want to stress to you, make sure that you prepare and study like you would for a normal test. And then you can have your notes and book and everything there with you if you need a little bit of extra help. But if you're trying to look everything up, it's going to be very, very tight for you. Make sure that you're watching the clock. Canvas will stop your test when your time runs out. So you have 75 minutes. So just make sure that you're watching the clock. Skip the question if you don't know the answer. You can always come back to it. But make sure that you're watching and leave yourself enough time. Again, it should be plenty of time. 60 minutes is usually the average that it takes people, but you do have 75 if you need it. And then as soon as you're done, as soon as you've answered everything, you'll hit submit quiz. And as I mentioned, it will give you a score right away, except for the short answer questions, which I go back and grade once the exam makes it to me. Question someone asked, outside of the study guide you provided with, will there be any other questions from the slides book, extra credit, or discussion work? So I'll talk about that in just a second. That's a great question, my gypsy soul. I will get there in just a moment to make sure that you're feeling good about what will be on the test. A few other kind of general things here. I will never, ever, ever, ever trick you on an exam. Okay, so if you read a question and it feels like a trick question, it's not. I promise you. Trick questions are silly. All they do is cause anxiety. And I'm sure you're all anxious enough. So there will never be a trick question. If it feels unclear, try to read it again. And if it still feels unclear, you could always email me to let me know later. I have written every question on the exam myself. None of them are from a test bank or just randomly on there. So everything should be very clear and straightforward. If you've been doing the reading, following along, watching all the videos, you should do wonderfully. Again, I want you all to do well. These are very straightforward, and hopefully all of you do pretty good. Oh, no worries. I'm glad you're joining us, even if you're late. That's fine. So once you are ready to take the exam, this is where you'll do it. But let's talk a little bit about what is on the test. So as I mentioned, the exam is 73 questions and is mainly multiple choice, matching, true, false, and then a handful of short answer questions. Now, the exams are mainly based on the lectures and the textbook, and then any videos or documentaries that I had you watch, like the Kinsey one or the 20th Century Sexuality one. Those are fair game as well. But anything that is on the exam will be stuff that we have covered either in the textbook, the lecture, or the videos. Now, once I've finished making the test, what I do is I make a study guide for you so that you can use the study guide to help you prepare. So if you're back under week number 5, you'll notice that right here is exam 1, and then right above it is study guide for exam number 1. So let's look at that together. And let me make this a little bigger so you can see it. Okay, so the study guide and the exam, this exam is related to chapters 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. Now we skip chapter 3, we'll get there later in the semester, but 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. So once I've made the exam, I will put every key term or concept that you need to know on the study guide. So if it's on this page, if it's on the study guide, you do need to know it for the test. It will be on the exam. It's fair game for the test. If it's not on here, then you don't need to study it. You don't need to know about it. You don't need to prepare, and you can let that go. So anything on the study guide is fair game for the exam. Make sure that you know it, that you can ask and answer questions about it. There's also 2 diagrams on the second page. So I've given you the exact diagrams that are on the test. All that's missing here are the numbers. So you will be matching a list of terms to the different locations of anatomy. So make sure that you definitely can label every single thing on these 2 diagrams for the exam. And again, you don't need to worry about spelling. You'll be matching to the different responses in the test bank. So again, what I would do if it were me, so I always share this piece of information. I am one of those students that over prepares for everything. I'm a straight A student. I want to do like perfectly. Like I'm mad at myself if I get like a 98. I missed 2 points, right? I want 100 or more. That's always been my style as a student. So what I would do if it were me is I would over prepare for exam number 1. This is our first test together. If you haven't taken a class with me, you might not know what to expect. So over prepare. Make sure that you are ready for anything I throw at you. And again, when I say over prepare, what that means is make sure that you know everything on this page. So what I would do, and this is, this is just my situation and suggestion. If it were me, I would type up or write out every single term on this page. I would type it up or write it out. I would study it. I might use something like Quizlet to make sure that I understood and could answer questions about it. But if you were to go through and type up every term on this page and have it in front of you during the exam, then you know that you have every possible term and concept that will be on the test ready to go and organized. If you're taking the exam and you don't know the answer and you have to go look at the book and find it, you have to open a lecture to try and find it, you're trying to watch part of a video to find it, you're going to run out of time and that's going to hurt you. Versus if you've prepared and you've written this all out ahead of time and you have it in front of you, you could always just look over and double check your study guide as a reference. And so if it were me, I would type up everything from chapter 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. I would go through, I would label these diagrams and have them printed and in front of me. And then anything that was on the exam, I know that I have it right there organized. I can find it quickly and clearly. And then you have described everything and studied it hopefully as well. You should be in amazing shape and there'd be no reason you wouldn't do well on the exam. Cowbell said, I have every term from the chapter on an index card except for chapter 6. And that's exactly perfect. So an index card, you could handwrite it, you could type it, whatever works for you. I'm sure you know by now how well to study and how to prepare. But if I could make that suggestion, over prepare for the first exam. If you did too much, you can always dial it back next time. But it's an awful feeling to be under prepared. To open the exam and feel overwhelmed. You don't want to go through that. So just make sure that you've studied and you're ready to go and you should be in really, really good shape. Again, these exams are very straightforward. And so as long as you have studied and prepared, you should be in great shape. Tracy, you asked where's the practice exam? So I made a practice exam for you, but all it is practicing the format. So this isn't going to help you with the content, just the format of the test. So it's right here under quizzes, and here's the practice exam. So the practice exam is the exact same thing as the mandatory orientation quiz. So it might give you a chance to practice like saving and how to take a quiz on Canvas. So for example, if you were to open this and hit take quiz, this would be a great place to remind yourself like, okay, where's my clock? And it's right here. I have 14 minutes and 50 seconds left. And how am I going to click on these things and, submit my answer at the end? There's a short answer on there as well. So it's not going to help you with the content, but it might be helpful if you're worried about the format of taking a quiz on Canvas. A couple of other things I just want to mention, just some general good tips for maximizing your success. So as I mentioned, study, prepare, pretend this was an in-person test and you just have your notes there in case you need them. But bigger than that, don't wait until Sunday night at 10, 11 o'clock at night to take the test. Inevitably, and this happens every time, if you wait till Sunday night at 10 o'clock, your internet will crash, the power will go out. We had a little earthquake yesterday, right? Natural disasters, earthquakes, power outages. As we get into September and October, the wind starts to kick up in Simi and this whole area. And you just don't want to wait to the last minute and have a problem. Try and take the exam like Sunday morning, Saturday, Friday. You could take it today, whenever you're ready. And if you run into an issue with your internet crashing or something comes up, then you have time to reach out to me and we can address it and fix it together. If you take it Sunday night at 11 o'clock p.m. and your power goes out and you email me Monday morning, I'm going to tell you it's too late. All right, so you got to make sure you're emailing me before the deadline if you have a problem. And if you can take it a little bit earlier in the day, Sunday or even Saturday or Friday, then we can address any potential issues together. So yeah, fires. As we get a little bit closer, October is an awful month for fires, and there's already so many of them. It's so tragic already. So wind, fires, earthquakes, power outages, internet issues, family emergencies, just leave yourself enough time that you're not waiting to the last minute. Okay, and I know some of you have no choice maybe but to take it Sunday night, but just try and leave yourself a little extra time just so that you don't put yourself in any more stress than you need. This has been a stressful enough year, right? We don't need more stress in our lives. So try and give yourself the best chance to be successful. Okay, so I think those are the big things, right? Make sure that you are preparing. Anything on the study guide is fair game. Do the discussion, the lecture video when you're ready. The exam is linked right here. A couple of reminders. Are there any questions at all? While I'm waiting to see if there are any questions, let me give you a few reminders here. Oh, I forgot to push this through. I'm going to put this in the chat. We're in week number 5. A lot of you lost your subscription status this week or at the end of last week. So I noticed a huge drop off in the number of people who are subscribed. Remember, this is completely free. Don't pay for this. But if you've lost the football cake or crown next to your name, please make sure you resubscribe with your Twitch account that you have. You can check on that. Again, somebody asked me to show you this, so I can show you really quickly. If you go to Twitch and then you go to my channel, it's going to give you an option to resubscribe. Now, I don't think I can show you on my channel, so let me take you over to my friend's channel here. Sticker G. And I showed you this before, but if you no longer have the icon next to your name or you're getting a lot of ads, then you probably lost your subscription status. There's this little purple bar right here, right? And if you click on this arrow on the drop down and scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's an option to do a free Prime subscription. And I subscribe to my buddies every month, so I'm still subscribed all the way until the 24th. But right here, you could click that box to resubscribe with your free Twitch Amazon Prime and then resubscribe again. So I just wanted to point that out to you so that you don't get ads and have to deal with all of that. It's really obnoxious, so you don't want to have to deal with that as you're going through. So make sure that you do resubscribe if that has gone away, or if you never did it, you could do that as well. The instructions are back up here. Here's the instructions right here if you need them to do that. So I haven't given you the question. I'll give it to you in just a second here. The last reminder that I have is that our next Twitch live stream will be on Tuesday next week, Tuesday 9/21. Crazy. 9/21 at 9:30 in the morning. So our next time that I will see you will be next Tuesday morning, 9/21 at 9:30 in the morning. And the only other thing I have for you today is to give you that Twitch extra credit question. And then, of course, I will hang out for a little bit to see if there are any general questions about the exam or about anything from this week. But do make sure that you prepare. Again, I hope you all do wonderfully. I would be so happy if every single one of you got an A on the exam. But do make sure that you study, prepare, and set yourself up for success. So let me give you that extra credit question so that you can get those 2 points for joining me today. Okay. So I'm going to copy and paste this into the chat right here. So our topic for this week was male sexual anatomy. So for the extra credit question, name and describe one common male reproductive health concern. So name and describe one common male reproductive health concern. And when you're ready to do that, you can head back over to Canvas and you will click go to week number 5 and then click on Twitch extra credit number 5. And then when you're ready, hit start assignment up here at the top. And then you can type your response in the text box below and hit submit assignment. Get your confetti burst. Woo, right? So excited. It's the little things. And that is due, of course, before Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. But those 2 points of extra credit, you know, that's 2 questions on the exam, or maybe it's a forgotten peer response. If you're doing these every week, that's really going to give you a nice buffer on the exams and on the other materials. So make sure that you're doing these, especially if you're joining me live. You want to get those 2 points. And don't forget to check on your little status. If you aren't subscribed, make sure you put your first and last name somewhere in the chat so I can track that you were here. And then are there any questions or thoughts, comments, anything like that before we call it a day? Anything I can answer for you while we're here together? It's going to be a little cooler the next few days. I'm excited. I'm ready for fall, right? It's coming soon. Like I said, I'm ready to decorate my front yard. Got to get some more decor. I add every year. I've got like 3 inflatables out there. I got to add a few more. Some pathway lights, some icicle spider lights. I got to get it looking epic for Halloween, right? Okay, a couple of you say no questions. Yeah, I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care of yourselves. Again, try and get the exam done early. Get it out of the way. You don't want to ruin your Sunday evening with the test, right? That's for Sunday night football. Or other things, of course, too. But I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for being on here with me live. I really appreciate your company, even though I can't see you. And I'm going to minimize my video, take pictures. All right, I'll have to take a video, right, when I get that up. I don't know if I'll get to it this week, but soon, very soon. But I hope you have a wonderful week. I'm going to minimize my video, but I will hang out for a little bit here if you do have any other questions. But you're welcome. I lost my volume. Uh-oh. Everything looks fine on my end. Sometimes the internet cuts in and out, and that might do it. But have a wonderful week, and I will see you all. I'll see you all next Tuesday morning at 9:30. And again, if you have questions, I will hang out for a little bit, and you're welcome to ask. Thank you, too. Thank you for being on here with me. All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and log off. But if you think of any questions, of course, feel free to email me. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next Tuesday morning.